this computer. Amazing. So before you know me, I'm Jose. I'm a communication and public speaking coach. I'm the founder of the Speak to Sell show. And Ketan is joining us as well. So more people joining. I love it. I decided to create this community because I wanted to help people to speak up. Okay. When I say sell, yes, because one way or another, we're always selling ourselves. Some people run their own businesses. Some people don't. Regardless, when you go to an interview, think about it. You're selling yourself. Okay. So that's why within this community, it's about empowering people. It's about providing the tools, the skills for each one of us within our fields to speak our greatness. Okay. And for me, sales, and we may touch on the sales, the label and what it means to us and everything else, because for me, sales is just a process that will help people decide, make a decision that will help them or will benefit them. Simple. For me, it's not, Ada may join us today. She posted something very interesting. For me, when I'm selling, I feel like I'm giving my soul away. Well, that might be if you use that label. What if you changed it for something else? Because when I say I'm going to be selling, I don't feel very good either personally, because I want to be selling. No, I don't want to sell. I want to serve. But then how do I do that? Because if I want to serve, how do I get people to buy into what I do so that I can serve them? So we can reframe it. And that's the reason behind this community anyway. Ketan, welcome back, buddy. So this is what we're going to do, people. Eunice is still not connecting to the audio. Anyway, I know Eunice is dialing in all the way from Ghana. This is what we're going to do. We start with ladies first, and we go Leslie, then we go Sharon, then Rashmi, and then Ketan. Brief introduction, what you do, what you're expecting to get out of today's session, and how can people get in touch with you? There we go. We start with the one and only Leslie Thomas. Over to you.
Thank you very much. Good morning, everybody. So as the name says, I'm Leslie Thomas, and I'm the Money Mastery Business Coach. I work largely with female entrepreneurs to help them improve their relationship with money. And I do that because our sense of value and worth is so directly linked to our relationship with money. So if one is not working, then it's going to affect every part of our life and our business, essentially. What am I hoping to get out of today? Well, I've come to this absolutely blind. I will be totally honest with you. I don't know what to expect. So I've put my trust in you, Jose, to lead me through this whole experience. I'm up for whatever this new experience, is going to offer. And people can reach out to me on my website, leslieathomas.com. I'm on Instagram as Leslie Thomas Coaching. And I also have a podcast. So Let's Talk Money and More is my podcast. So hopefully that's given you everything you need to know for now.
I love it. Thank you so much. And I think what I like the most, Leslie, and people, we can all learn from each other. And this is why I love this community so much. And any other community, when we have the opportunity to share, because that strategy of coming to a new place, blind or like a baby, eyes wide open, all of the senses to see what we take in. That's a beautiful way to, I would say, to live, because then we're learning every time. Love it, Leslie. Thank you so much for that. I'm going to pass on the mic to Sharon, and then we go Rashmi, and then we carry on with Ketan. Ax, I don't know whether he can talk. Hermione is saying hello. Sharon, welcome.
Hi, thank you very much for letting me know about this today. My name is Sharon D. I live in Ireland, and I am the self-love coach and body positive advocate. I started by not taking care of myself and living to please other people. I never fitted in. So I ended up burning out completely by trying to please everyone with all these different masks that I had going on. So from there, I built myself up using self-love, something that I thought was was it selfish? Was it foo-foo? What was it? And I discovered, no, it's something everybody needs. So that's what I'm sharing with people. And today I met you on Clubhouse, and I just wanted to know what NLP was. And yeah, I'm just open to hear what you've got to say today. So thank you so much.
Amazing. Thank you so much for the energy as well. So we got self-love, we got money mastery, we have Rashmi Kasat. Over to you, Rashmi.
Hello everyone, I'm Rashmi, as you all know, Jose said, and I'm one of the members of Jose's amazing, incredible team. And I joined today to learn more about NLP. This completely new topic for me, new thing for me. I don't know anything about it, so I'm excited to learn.
Amazing, Rashmi. Well, I would imagine that by now you would know a little bit, but there we go. So that's down to me. Bad communicator. So I'm definitely not applying what I preach. Right, Ketan, brother, over to you, and then we see if Ax can talk. I know Herman is traveling today, finally coming back to the UK after having faced COVID in Spain. I think that was an excuse, but anyway, we'll talk about that. Ketan.
Yes, hi everyone. My name is Ketan. I am an Indian living in Switzerland currently. What I do is I help people and businesses maximize their potential. When I talk of potential, it could be behavioral, it could be profit, process, all the works. What I expect of the session today, I met Jose in the last session, and I was overwhelmed with his energy and insight. It was one of the things that was very difficult for me to fathom together, but I saw it live, and I have done masters in NLP myself, so I have an understanding a little bit of communication model. But then another thing that I learned in NLP was each of us have our own unique model of the world. So I just came here with an open mind to see what's Jose's model of the world pertaining to communication model. So maybe I could learn something new. Where to get in touch with me? I'm going to drop my contact details in the chat box. But yeah, I'm all over social media, LinkedIn, wherever you can talk of, except Instagram. I fail to understand it. But yes, but for the next hour, I'm all with y'all. Thank you, Jose.
Fantastic, buddy. Well, with that background, you may want to run the session for me today. All of that NLP that you've got going on in your life. Right. So, well, Ax, can you talk today, buddy? Or are you,
Here. Good morning.
There we go.
I am here. Apologies, I haven't got the camera on at the moment. I thought this was going to be a Clubhouse event. I didn't realize we were on Zoom. So bear with me a little while and I'll get the camera on in a second. Guys, my name's Ax Siddiqui. Jose, we met on Clubhouse through your rooms when the energy in that room is always phenomenal. The authenticity that you share is beyond. So I actually have no idea what to expect in this session today. I just received an invitation from you and I was like, hey, let me jump on this because this is going to be good. My background is quite eclectic, actually. I've got quite a lot of experience in fundraising and events, hospitality, and catering. Those are my four main areas. I'm currently studying in the cybersecurity sector as well, because tech is kind of a hobby of mine that I'm looking to just professionalize a little bit. And I'm currently in a transition between going from selling other people's products and services, fundraising and charity, and doing a lot of voluntary stuff, to now selling my own things. So that transition of kind of stepping into the limelight and being able to do things for myself is what I'm kind of working towards at the moment. I've got some very good partnerships in the property space, and that's where we're kind of focusing our energies this year, in the property, tech, and personal development spaces. So if anybody wants to get some information about some good deals, give me a shout.
Amazing, Ax. Thank you so much. Wow. So we have got a very diverse audience today. Different backgrounds, different cultures, different countries. Right. So thank you very much for sharing. Thank you for being here today. I'm thinking, should I dive? Who knows about NLP? Obviously, we know Ketan does. Leslie. So Leslie, what's your level of, well, say comprehension, understanding, knowledge within NLP? Have you done?
I'm just going through the mindset coaching accreditation. So I'm coming towards the end of being an NLP coach and practitioner.
Amazing. Welcome to the community. Fantastic. Okay. So some of you may know what I'm going to be touching on, but the thing is, what we're going to do today, we're going to grab the communication model and we're going to dissect it. And we're going to see how does it apply to public speaking. And Sharon, I'll give you a bit of an intro as well to what public speaking is, to what NLP is. But before that, let's do, I feel like we can do this. We can do this, people. This is what I want to do. To warm up, let's do a little bit of an improv exercise, yeah, which is very important for public speaking, but it's very important for life in general, because who can see what's coming next in life? Who can see, who can predict this is what's going to happen? So if you think about it, most of the time we are pretty much improvising, you know, based on our knowledge and understanding, our, you know, the way in which we create our reality, whatever, we still don't know. So let's do a bit of an improv all together now that we have, you know, some very cool people in the room. This is what the game is. It's called, and look at me, yay, yay, yay. Okay, so this is my yay, yay, yay. Yeah, 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 very American. Yeah, yeah, yeah. You can high five or not, but it's just a yeah, yeah, yeah. It has to go with the nodding as well. So it's not like yeah, yeah, yeah. No, no, just give me your best. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay, so I want to actually, because I want to hear you as well, unmute yourself and give me your yeah, yeah, yeah. All together.
Yeah.
Yay,
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 Yeah, 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 fantastic. So the next part of the exercise is going to be that I'm going to start telling you a story, okay? And then I'm going to call you up. So I may say Rashmi. So Rashmi is going to go yay, 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 as he's going to continue with the story. And then I'm going to call up Leslie, and then Leslie's going to go yay, 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 continue with the story all the way to Axe, because I don't think Eunice is going to be able to take part because her audio is still connecting, unfortunately. Eunice, try leaving the room and coming back again. That may help, restarting the system or something like that. Right, so who's ready? Who's not ready? Yeah, well,
Yeah.
all right, yeah, ahead of a game already. Fantastic. So you know what? I woke up this morning and for the first time, I decided to use my mug. I turned 40 back in November, but I wasn't too sure about sharing this, you know, sharing this online and what would it mean and what would it, you know, what would people think about who I am and stuff like that. Yeah, I didn't have that internal dialogue. I'm making it up just for the purpose of this story right now. So Rashmi.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. After just hearing about this session, shall I continue the same story or create a new one?
Leslie.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And I've got my mug as well. And my mug is gold with the heart in the center because gold is my brand color. And I'm very, very heart centered. So I like my mug to reflect my mug. Over to
Rashmi.
I got a bottle this morning and this was like filled up half of the water. Then I just wanted to finish it over. I don't know what I have to make out of this
Sharon.
story.
Yay, yay, yay. So I don't have a mug and I am not a mug because I practice self-love and I fill up my cup to the very top with love so I can give to others.
Yay, 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 yay. And I do have a mug also, which is turquoise, plain but turquoise. And turquoise is intellectual, which is what I'm trying to grow into life. Thank you.
Axe.
Yeah. So I feel like a bit of a mug because I was totally unprepared for this. I didn't have my coffee this morning because we ran out of sugar, and I thought, okay, let me just swap that out with some Manuka honey, and that was really good, but doesn't taste too great with coffee. So
amazing.
Yeah.
Round of applause, everybody. Fantastic. Thank you so much for playing along. And now I'm going to assume there's been a learning or there's been something going on in your mind as you did it. What happened for you? Very briefly, what happened as we started this process? What happened is a very open question. So what happened? Whatever happened as you started. So let's go Sharon, and then we go Ketan.
I felt very confident because I kind of knew what I was going to do. I was confident in myself, so that pleased me.
Cool. Yeah, fantastic. Ketan?
Being impromptu sometimes, especially with an audience which is not known, is a challenge, which I thought, I mean, what would I say when Jose called out my name? But probably that nervous energy made me more attentive to whatever is being spoken, because I thought of picking up the last word wherever the person before me leaves it. So I was more attentive.
Leslie?
I was relieved that Rashmi was going before me because I wasn't 100% certain on the instruction. So I had the confidence of knowing somebody else was first. So I could then process what you did, what Rashmi did, to give me the ability of the next step for me.
Interesting. And I guess, well, next time, if you're, with me anyway, you can ask, Jose, I'm still not too sure. So feel free to ask the question if you're not sure about.
I had a feeling that I was going to get what I needed from the last person and then just make it up. Having that faith again.
Amazing. Having that faith. Rashmi. Interesting.
When you called my name, so I was just started to think upon like what story I can create. What I was thinking about the object I'm having around so that I can pick up and create some story, some good thing. But I just put the shit.
Yeah. Okay. So very, very interesting. Different strategies. Okay. Different, which is very much linked to the communication model that I'm going to be covering next, because then we're creating that reality, whatever is in front of us, and we are deciding. Some of us are deciding just to go with the flow, have faith, see what happens. For some others, we're too much in our head, just thinking, well, because I want to do something good, and all of that is just being created by yourselves, because all I wanted you to do was just say the yay, which actually puts you in a good state in order to continue. Let's just hear from Ax as well, and then we welcome Ada to the room.
Sure, it was quite I was quite grateful I was getting at the end, because that gave me the opportunity to see what everybody else had to say. I suppose the trickiest part was being able to connect it all, but where everybody had kind of followed the same theme, it was quite easy to just chime in with regards to that. So I don't often call myself a mug, but hey, because yeah.
yeah, exactly. Well, you're talking to, probably one of the biggest mugs in today's session anyway. So cool, Ax, I love that. So imagine a bit of a stretch. Imagine if next time you get to go first. And also you made decisions about the fact that there wasn't a theme or anything. It was just a story, and it was an improvisation exercise. So now extrapolate this to any other situation that may happen in your life. How can you take a similar approach? Or also, how are you reacting or dealing with these situations? Because remember, how you do one thing, I'm not going to say we do everything, okay? I like to say that how we do one thing, we do many. So if you're responding to this here like this, how would you respond to some other situations in your life? And would that response serve you? I'm not going to say that having faith is going to be good or bad. It just is. Is it serving you? And for Leslie, it seems to be serving her. So that's fantastic. But then it's being aware of that. It's being aware, like Sharon did. Yeah, I'm happy. I'm confident. I'm just here. And, you saw her. She was in the flow as well. Okay. So Ada, welcome to the room. Are you able to talk today a little bit, or I know it is late over in Australia, right before we jump with the topic of today, which we have already started, by the way.
Oh, hey, Jose. Yeah, I can speak for a little bit, but I have kids sleeping, so I'll have to be very quiet.
Okay, cool. So we'll let you be quiet. Would you like to quickly intro yourself, and then we carry on with the theme?
Yeah, hi, everybody. My name is Eda, and I'm a writing coach. I help business owners tell the story of how they started their business, their why, their reason in anecdotes, so that the people that they're speaking to will see a human behind the business and be more likely to connect, and also open up new opportunities for them through a book form.
Amazing, super. Ada, thank you so much for joining us all the way from Australia. Right, people. Okay, thank you so much for playing along, for being very patient. Now, let me just share the screen. Can you all see what I've got in there for you? The NLP, yeah, the NLP Communication Model, fantastic. Let me just expand this so I get to see all of your faces. Incredible. So who has seen this before? I'm going to assume Ketan has and Leslie has. Okay. First of all, I'm going to give you Sharon and ask if you haven't heard about NLP. And I know Ada, she's done the world-class communicator training, so I speak a lot on NLP. Even though I don't mention NLP itself, some of the techniques and the concepts are from NLP. Sharon, imagine this, NLP, one of the definitions, and I don't like to call it a set of tools and techniques because in my opinion, it is much more than that. And to me, it's become a way of life because I bring that to every encounter. I carry it with me. It's kind of my mindset, okay? NLP is the study of the structure of the subjective experience. Still, in many occasions, when I say NLP, neuro-linguistic programming, for many people, it still doesn't mean a thing. When I go, the study of the structure of the subjective experience, still, what is it? And that's why I wanted to present today the communication model. We all carry excellence within us. Okay, and we all do things in a certain way. Today's exercise share the different strategies that you carry consciously and unconsciously for something specifically, which is going to be then contextual. So what this means is, imagine if you see, I loved how Leslie interacted and how she spoke and her presence and everything else. There are two things here. You can model, which is the essence of NLP, modeling. And when I say modeling, yeah, it can be the model, but actually you can decide to adopt some of her physiology, her body language, the tonalities, and you begin to place yourself in her shoes in order to understand what she does and how she does it. If we use this when it comes to speaking, you see a speaker on stage or a communicator and you really like that person, how they do that thing. Then what you can do, and I'm not saying mimicking, I'm saying you can adopt some of the things. Wow, that person stands in a certain way. That person moves in, around the stage in a certain manner. What do they do? How do they gesture? Okay, so that comes from an element of deep curiosity as well. Then the other one, which is when it gets really, really interesting, is when we begin to ask questions and we begin to break, as Ketan said, that model of the world. Because an NLP, well, I'm not going to call it concept. They call the map of the world our reality, okay? So another way is to actually then ask questions in order to understand how it is that we're doing what we do. Some of the questions I ask you, and you already share, very open, what happened for you? Instead of adding or assumptions to the question, what happened? Assuming something happened, but then how did you feel? You see, as I go, into more detail, I'm adding things and I'm presupposing that you felt in a certain way. When I say, how was it? Or what happened here? You see, you get to share what comes to mind, which is very powerful. So I had a conversation today when it comes to speaking, using the communication model and understanding all the concepts. This lady saying, I panic when I'm about to be on stage. Okay, so what happens when you're on stage? Well, I start looking at people and I can see, because I pay attention to body language, I can see that some of them are not very interested. And then I ask, how do you know? Well, because they do this, they do that, they do this. And then I just went, okay, so you're talking to me right now. I'm in the audience and I'm just looking down a little bit like this. What's happening with me? And she went, well, you're not interested. How do you know? Can you mind read? Which is one of the things we tend to do a lot. Oh, no. So no, actually, when I go like this, I'm actually connecting with my feelings, how they, what I'm hearing is impacting me because I'm very auditory as well. So right away, you can begin to break down what they do, how they do it for them to understand what's happening. And then I ask her, what happens, right before? Yeah, she said that. And when doesn't that happen? Think about this question. When doesn't it happen? And then she went, well, actually, when I'm with friends. Okay. So what happens right before you're with friends? Oh, when, right before I'm with friends, I'm excited because I'm going to be having a conversation. Oh, so what if you had that conversation when if you were excited to have a conversation when you went onto the audience? Right away, that's everything she needed then. This is what I'm talking about when it comes to breaking down people's strategies, people's subjective experience. I think I'm going to let Eunice in. And this is the communication model. I'm giving you examples from speaking because it is today's topic. So you look, and let's all share as well. How do you think you can utilize this? Because is it kind of clear, the explanation, Sharon? Because to dive into NLP, I mean, we would touch on so much more today, because you have the neuro, which is obviously everything that's going on in our mind, the mind, then the language, as you see, I've spoken about with the example, and then the programming, which are the strategies we run in our mind that can be successful or unsuccessful. When you see someone walking on stage doing something successfully, that's strategy that's working for them. What this lady presented to me today, it was a strategy that wasn't working for her. So it was unsuccessful. That's a bit of a wrap up. What's your understanding so far, if you don't mind sharing?
Yeah, so straight away, my mind generalized it to a book that I read for my 40th many years ago called The Four Agreements, and it was not to make assumptions and to always do your best and everything. So what you said reminded me straight away of how I kind of live my life. But also when you're speaking, you do need to gauge your audience. It's okay, you know, staying in your own lane and not making assumptions and not taking on other people's stuff. But when you're serving them, you need to look at their feedback too. So that's as far as my thought went so far.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. So I always, now if we take the communication model, we start breaking it down as a speaker, okay? We are perceiving, which is what was happening to this lady this morning. We are taking in and we are creating this reality based, apart from the fact that we generalize, distort, and delete all information, is based on our beliefs, previous experiences, our education, our values, all of those elements that are filtering that reality. So we're taking in all of this amount of information. So now put yourself in the place of the audience. They are receiving you as well, which is very interesting. So what kind of language are you using overall in order to impact them? Because as you can see, they are receiving through all of their senses, okay? The conscious and the unconscious mind are active. And in the end, we are consuming about 5 to 10 pieces of information at a time. So as speakers, this is why this is so important. How much are we saying? How much are we giving the audience before we overload their conscious mind and they go wandering off? This is why I love this so much. It can be the communication one-to-one, but thinking, whenever we go with those slides full of information, which by the way, is always going to be a no-no, and many of you already know this, but then we do like to give loads of data sometimes, and information, and steps, and things. Therefore, that's why storytelling becomes very powerful here in order to enable those chunks of information to land and get people on a journey, or get people on your talk, however you want to describe that situation. Knowing, very important as well, that as they are, whenever you're sharing the information, they are going to be generalizing this. They're going to be making assumptions already. They're going to be filling in the gaps, which then you can decide as you're speaking to use what is known as Milton language, where you actually become artfully vague, and then you give them enough information for them to create their own conclusions, their own takeaways, which is kind of what politicians use in a way. And that we all do sometimes, consciously or unconsciously. But then it is great to have the ability to do that consciously. Whenever we just present something, instead of just giving you all the details, look, we're going to make it. And you're going to be amazing when you actually achieve that. And, you know, as a group, we can all help each other to make sure we really achieve what we want. Now you can start asking me to achieve what? What is it that I want? And you can start breaking it down. But you can start when you're speaking to an audience, then you can start actually being artfully vague. And I love the word artfully vague because you're using it with a purpose for people to actually then connect. Because what's the point in me telling you everything about me? When we're speaking, that's another thing that I can speak about, the persuasion model. People don't care too much, but when you actually pass it on to them as humans, we connect. So we're using what the speaker is telling us and I'm connecting it. And if you're delivering it in a way that I can manage it between 5 and 9, yeah, I'm going to start, drawing my own conclusions, as I said before. Then if you know this as you're speaking, and that's why then using enriched language is so beautiful and powerful. If you haven't heard about enriched language, you may have heard about enriched language. As we're taking information throughout all of our senses, then you actually provide cues to each one of those senses and provide loads of details for them to paint a picture, a clear picture in their mind. And you can do a combination as well. I can actually say to you, I want you to picture a black dog in your garden. I still don't know, we don't know what breed the dog is. I don't know what your garden is. Each representation is going to be different. And I can give you more detail. But I wanted it to be a black Labrador in the garden, sitting on a stool. The stool is black and he's barking back at you. I'm really leading you, but still you're creating your own internal representation. Even more importantly, now that we dive deeper into it, people are taking us in. Okay, they create their internal representation of that moment, that reality for them, which is distorted, is generalized, we're deleting information, and they're going to feel in a certain way. So how often do you prepare for your presentation in terms of your state, not just your content? How often do you do that? Because mainly unconsciously, we're going to be taking all of that and we're going to feel in a certain way. Have you ever been to a presentation where the presenter is actually nervous or uncomfortable? And even without noticing it, you are there with that person as well. Now, if you are pros or you've done it enough, then you know, unfortunately, that person is in that way and they didn't prepare enough, or maybe they got thrown, they haven't got the skills to actually regain that balance or that congruent self. But all of that is happening in the audience. And that's why understanding this is so important, because then many people just go, yeah, and they share in a way and they don't know exactly what the impact is in their audience. Let me just move you guys here because you're blocking the other part. Okay. And then as you get, simply put, you're speaking, people, you trigger a thought, that thought triggers an emotion, they're going to feel in a certain way. And that's the beauty of actually reading the audience, but not assuming that you know what they're thinking, because honestly, that's going to be impossible. If you know it, if you know how to do it, you got the crystal ball, please, let's talk about it, because I want to know. I want to use that, please, because that would change, especially the dynamics with my wife. But don't share that. Just keep it between us. I think we're not going to be posting this live anymore. I'm going to stop recording. But if you're very mindful of it, how you are and how the message is landing, you will see it in the audience. You're going to sense it because you're present. There's going to be a state, and they're going to represent it, their physiology. But it's not to say that if they're looking up, they're looking down, you're going to get that feeling. Sometimes people get worried because someone stands up and then they just leave the room. Yeah, it might be because your presentation is really bad, boring, or it might be that that person has to go to the toilet. So what are you going to use to your advantage? What kind of thinking serves you best? So that is the process. And that is the process in which we create a reality, and then we go and behave. So in the same way, we're looking at the audience as speakers. How are we perceiving that environment? How much preparation are we doing before in order for us to be in that state? How much repetition do we do? How many different scenarios do we imagine, just like the improvisation that we did? Because something may happen and that may throw us. So how ready are we so that whatever happens, we can deal with it? An example, I've got this fantastic, it's working well, I'm feeling good, I'm taking in, I'm looking at your faces and fantastic. So I'm feeling okay, we're connecting, you're listening to what I'm saying. I'm not too sure about Axe because I cannot see his face. He's, a bit dodgy and he's hiding today. Oh, there he is, you see? So I had to pull that one for you to come up. Okay, cool. Fantastic. This is actually the first time I see you, by the way. So you see, I kind of lost my train of thought here. So I was speaking about the physiology. Okay, so imagining all of the different scenarios that could happen. To me, the other day, you're not going to believe it. I'm doing this, and I wanted to share not just the screen, I wanted to share the whiteboard. And I couldn't do it. I think I started looking for it. I think Ketan remembers that bit. Oh, goodness me. There was an emotion already, a bit of frustration. That emotion was about to impact my state. Oh, goodness me. I know this is going to impact my physiology, and then it's going to be reflected in my behavior. What do I do quickly as soon as I noticed it? So it's practicing this. What's going on? How am I perceiving every moment? How am I reacting to it? How am I dealing with that situation? Because then we begin building the muscle. And it's just, ooh, so let's see I'm about to, I'm feeling a bit, what can I change? I like many people say sometimes, oh yeah, but that's when I begin to spiral down. Amazing. How can you spiral back up? For instance, I always like to invite people to think about, what's the right opposite? What can you do instead to stop it? Because if we don't stop it, or if we don't deal with it right away, then guess what? That's how you're going to be perceived, because that's the behavior you're going to show, and that's what people are going to be taking in. Simple. Simple, maybe not so simple. The key here is also the practice. And that is a short version of the communication model applied to speaking. And of course, applied to communication. Most importantly, applied to what it is for. How are we creating our subjective reality? Because, as I always like to say, now this bit, how can you extrapolate? How can you use it in some other areas of your life? This understanding that you've gained, or the insights, or whatever that you may have thought about during the explanation. Because this applies to, I do this often when I'm communicating with my wife and I sense there is a bit of an argument coming in. I just go, wow. I put myself in her shoes. What may have happened today in her day? Right away, I begin to develop a bit of empathy. And then I change. This is what I'm doing. I'm changing how I'm perceiving that reality. So my internal representation of that moment changes. And this is the whole idea. So I'll stop talking right now, because I would like to hear any thoughts from you incredible people. It can be, what are you taking away, or what are you thinking about? Has this triggered anything? Maybe it hasn't. Did it help you remember something? Because sometimes we remember things that we hadn't thought about in a while. So what's happened? Let's just share a little bit while and by the way, this communication model one slide, we're going to be sharing it. Rashmi is going to put an email together, so you get the recording from today's session, you get that, and you may get some other blogs and things that I do related to this as well. So I would love to hear from you very openly. What's happened again? Who would like to go first? Oh, Sharon, I love that. Very okay. So hand rising and everything. Yeah, okay. There we go. Over to you.
Yeah, I've just learned a life lesson, I suppose. With my speaking, I had to start pacing myself, because I tend to speak very fast. I have so much information that in a time limit I want to get in, but I'm actually realizing that maybe I'm serving a disservice by putting so much in, and I should just think that it is 7 minutes is 7 minutes, or whatever the case may be. So you're not going to try and pack 20 minutes into 7 minutes. So why try and maybe let people's mind digest the 7 minutes worth? So that's what I've learned so far.
Cool. I love that. And that brings to mind what one of my mentors used to say, and this comes from someone else. I'm not great with quotes. There you go. Could be a limiting belief. Do I want to deal with it? Let's see. Maybe later. Okay, come on. It's not about me. And he used to say that, well, he used to say to me, Jose, if you had more time, you could make your presentation shorter. Because that's the key, really, to be able to deliver our message with impact, but when I say shorter, not as short as possible, but without the essence, delivering the essence without all of the stuff around it that may not be that relevant. So we make sure that it lands. And then using all of this as well and being mindful of it, you can see when it is landing or when it isn't. Coolio, who would like to share a little bit more? Ketan. And then we go Axe. Well, yeah, over to all of you. Let me just, yeah, go for it, buddy. Yeah, sorry.
What I realized while you were talking is sometimes we as speakers get too focused on a little irrelevant things like the body language of the audience. And it's in our own head that we are creating notions that is the audience disinterested, or those small little things that we've been born and brought up with. Like if the audience is sitting like this, and if someone has told you that sitting like this is a sign of being closed, you suddenly get derailed with your whole notion. if we as speakers start going with an open mind, that or rather actually admit it beforehand and tell the audience that you might sit whichever way you want. I mean, you don't necessarily have to sit on the chairs too. For all I care, if you want to sit on the floor, upside down, whichever way, but give me your 100% attention. When you've said it and put it out in clear words, I think what my learning from the session so far is, then you as a speaker aren't focused on those little things that don't matter at all.
I like that. Little things that don't matter at all. Yes. Think about it. And most of those things, well, they are up here. So again, going back to what I said a while ago, is that way of thinking serving you? If it isn't, what can you change it for? And you just gave yourself an alternative, which is telling the audience or asking the audience to give you their 100%. And next time you come onto the call, Ketan, I may ask you then to just go, I don't know, and hold yourself by the window or change sit somewhere else, or let's see what happens next time. Cool. I see Axe, buddy. Yeah.
Yeah, it was very good for me actually, Jose, because it's just a reminder. I have done some work in NLP in the past and done some study of it. But looking at that model was really interesting because it just reminded me of the fact that our perception isn't necessarily the reality that everybody sees, especially with the little bit. Every single person has a unique perspective and perception of what's going on around them. And if we're basing our speaking on what we may think other people are thinking, it makes it very difficult to serve the audience. If we're able to, like you said, cut out the fluff and get to the essence, then ultimately the message you're trying to get across, even though everybody may perceive it, they're going to hear what they want to hear, or they're going to hear what they need to hear in that moment. If you're able to cut out the fluff and get to the essence, then you have a much higher probability of delivering the core of what it is that you want to get across, as opposed to just what they want to hear.
Okay. Yeah, I like that, Axe. Yeah, thank you so much for your contribution. I would love to hear, well, Leslie, if you want to contribute as well, over to you, and then we can hear from Ada as well.
I think it's really important when you're presenting to detach from what others are thinking as you are speaking. I think we all can have a tendency to get caught up in our own heads, and as a number of people have said, interpret body language, interpret what we're seeing, rather than concentrating on the message we want to get across. And I can remember an example going back probably about 6 or so weeks ago. I had to deliver a message on Messenger. It was a voice message on Messenger to somebody to let them know about a situation. And I had no response from them, even though I know they'd seen the message. And I interpreted that as them being really annoyed with what I had told them, and that they had taken umbrage basically at what I had said. And then I had a word with myself, and I made an assumption that what I had to tell them was more important than what was going on in their world for them at that point in time. And I subsequently found out that they were going through massive issues with their family and simply didn't have the bandwidth to process what I said, and simply didn't see it as important as I saw it compared to what was going on for them. So I think that whole thing about compassion and detaching from what you think the audience are thinking, and just to concentrate on what you are there to do it well, do it to the best of your ability. How it lands is actually none of our business, essentially, because we don't know what is going on, in the background for them. So, the big takeaway there for me was the reminder about, compassion, and also ignore the signals, because you could be reading them as smoke signals and not reading them correctly.
I love that, Leslie. Thank you so much. What a pleasure to have you here with us today. And as you were sharing that, when it came to the voice note. I always like to ask because, yeah, we tend to make situations and everything about ourselves. Generalizing, of course, we tend to, yeah, it's about me, and they didn't like this. And then we think about, we might be being rejected or not taken seriously, whatever that internal dialogue we have. So one question I always like to ask, what can be, or what is the high positive intention behind what they're doing? And usually it's the same thing I do with my wife, with people in general. Whenever there is something that is not sitting well with me, what can be the high positive intention behind that behavior? Because right away I start to build that empathy with that human being or that group of people. What could be going on? What's the high positive intention to what they're doing? And another way is, what can I learn from this? And this is also a message for me as well. Ax.
Apologies to interrupt you. Could you repeat that? You said that what high positive intention?
High positive intention, yes. What's the high positive intention behind that behavior? And it can be the high positive intention for them or the high positive intention for you as well. So what's the high positive intention behind all of this? And you may realize, wow, there's actually an opportunity for me to learn, right? I discovered that I was, whatever the discovery might be at that point, but definitely more empathy, more curiosity about the other human being, more curiosity about the audience as well. And then, yeah, we don't know exactly what's going to be happening in their minds, but then for me, curiosity is just but then what can be going on? And, what can be going on in their worlds as you're speaking, as you're sharing with them? Because then that builds that human connection. Curiosity comes from children, when we're growing up and learning and everything else. That's a powerful way to be, being curious. I don't know whether Herman is traveling, so I'm not going to bother him. Eunice, would you like to contribute? Have you got anything? And can you talk? I know you might be working. Okay, no worries. Rashmi, any thoughts before we begin to wrap up?
Yes, I basically learn how I can reframe the situation, any circumstances in the way which will change my thinking, my thought process, and the way I react to it, which will impact my behavior as well as the behavior of the people which are surrounding.
Okay, so I'm curious about this thing that you did before. How will you do it differently next time?
I'll think what best the meaning of the situation can serve to me so that I can give the positive behavior.
Sure, and I love that. Give me an example, a real life example for you. Now that we're here, within a family, safe environment.
Example currently I'm not getting in mind. I just got this learning, but
okay,
surely I'll get some and will share you soon.
Right. Okay. So we can talk about this later. You can, Rashmi, well, I love you and you've been part of my life for a while now, and I respect everything you do as well. I can right away see, I don't know what you're thinking about, but I kind of right away see how you're changing, the color of your skin and how, and I sense the emotional state shifting as well. As I ask you a question, you couldn't find the answer. We all carry patterns, okay? And are those patterns serving us again or not? What can we do about it? Think about, and actually you can post it in the Facebook group if you like. This is what I discovered. This is the example. For instance, today, when we went into the improvisation exercise, you said that, yeah, how do I come up with something that is good and everything else? So next time that happens, based on what you've learned today, for instance, what are you going to do differently using that same example? That can be something for you. Cool. Any other thoughts at this point, lovely people? We've got 9 more minutes. I usually run these for 45 minutes to an hour. Anything else? And I would also like to ask you, all right, Kat, I'm coming to you. Any thoughts from today's session? Anything you would like to share in the Facebook group? I want to make the Facebook group, well, I'm building the community there, of course, but I want to make it more interactive, people sharing and people also understanding the value behind these sessions, if there is any value for you, of course. So your main takeaways or what you thought of it, it's always appreciated. Ketan, over to you, good friend.
One of the interesting points that you mentioned while you were talking was anticipate or visualize things, rehearse, practice, see all different outcomes, possibilities, what could be the scenarios that can happen. I think while you were talking, I internalized and I see the point. This is something that all of us here, we need to change as a strategy. I think our brain gets overwhelmed with a situation when we haven't experienced it before. But then if we start visualizing it already, or if we've anticipated as to what can happen and or what all can happen, the brain gets that much more reassurance, I believe, that I have been here, done that. I can deal with it because I have dealt with it. In my mind, though, maybe. But I also think our brain cannot really differentiate between a rehearsed experience and an actual experience. So if we actually build that up, if we from what I learned from you is if I see that, oh, okay, this could go wrong, or a person could just get up and leave, what would I do? The more I'm able to see different scenarios, more assured, more centered I am in my delivery of the message, because to my brain it feels as if it's all happened before. I know I'm in control.
I love that. I love that, and I've experienced it, and that's why I love doing it as well. And you just reminded me of something as well. And Rashmi, again, I may use you as a bit of an example. And what happened to you, regardless of what you were thinking about, there was a bit of a stress response. Okay. So we all have stress responses to situations. Okay. That's the beauty of the communication model, that next time we can predict how can I react differently to that situation in order to have a different outcome. Because when the stress response kicks in, there's a bit of cortisol being released, and that begins to block the connections of our brain cells, that neural coupling that's happening in there. So the sooner we realize this, the sooner we can change. So the lizard brain, from a neuroscience point of view, is actually saying fight, flight, freeze. But then, apart from the mammal brain, we also have the neocortex. So with the neocortex, we can do everything that we've been saying today and doing today. How can I reframe this? Okay, I felt like that. You're sitting with it, analyze it. What can I change? How would I like to be different next time? And off you go. So right away, and then you can rehearse that in your mind. You can visualize it moving forward and everything else right away. You're creating change and you're building new connections in the brain, because as Ketan said, the mind won't know the difference whether what's happening is actually happening in reality or it's just a product of your imagination. When I did my TEDx, people, I rehearsed in my mind so many times, not what I was going to say, but everything around the audience and my sense of confidence and the fact that my parents would be there and everything else, that even when I first jumped on stage, there was a bit of a story behind that. They didn't even give me the mic because they moved forward. They brought it forward by an hour and I didn't know, and I was outside. So I had to rush in, jump on the stage, didn't have my mic on. So you can imagine, I started and then I had to stop and then I went back. Of course, they edited that bit. But if in my mind, I wouldn't have done all of this. In my mind, it happened. The stress response was there quickly. I just went, goodness me, after everything that I've been doing, preparing for this day, I cannot believe, life, you're doing this to me. And I, externally referenced the whole thing. In seconds, I had to go back to normal because that happened between me being on stage, stopping, grabbing the mic, putting it on, and back on stage. So it was just seconds. So that's the beauty of rehearsing, because you build a muscle. So yeah, you never know what's going to happen. That's the beauty of public speaking, isn't it? You never know what's going to happen. So it is a transformational experience. That's why I love it so much, because there can always be a learning, isn't it? Plus, what the audience can learn, but there's always something going on. And when there is a new audience, there is a new place, there's a new topic, the more you feel, all the butterflies and, that sensation, because you can decide to say, wow, yeah, because I'm not good enough, or it can be because I'm stretching myself and I'm becoming a greater speaker, a greater human being. I love this. People, thank you so much. I want to, one last thing I would like you all to, you can share it here, you can share it in the chat later, you may decide not to share it at all. What could be a new belief or a new decision you make about your speaking. I'll give you an example. I decide to believe that every time I'm on a stage, people will take something away from what I've got to say. That can be my belief next time, moving forward. Beliefs can be seen as decisions we make. So what is going to be your belief, or what decision are you going to make when it comes to your speaking? Not to share here. Take it with you. Decide whatever you want to decide. Any final thoughts before I say goodbye, people?
Just say thank you very much. Really enjoyed it.
Very good.
Leslie, it is a pleasure. Thank you so much for being here with us.
Just one more question, please. How often do you run these classes, these masterminds?
I do this weekly, brother, every Thursday, 10 a.m. UK.
Lovely. Thank you very much.
My pleasure. Thank you for joining. Ketan.
For me, Jose, what you said, and then I tried to couple it with what Leslie said, somewhere in the middle. I think one of the biggest takeaways for me today is, as a speaker, you rehearse, you do whatever before the thing, before your gig. But and then when you land up in the gig, then do not worry about how it actually lands or other things. Just be authentic, comfortable in your own skin, and I think it should land. If you are really genuine with the message, like Leslie said, it should land. And if it doesn't, then really it's beyond your control.
Beautiful. And then you can always decide to, after the presentation, to give yourself some feedback, because there is always an opportunity to learn. Absolutely. Yeah, love it. Love it. Sharon.
Hi, yeah, be authentic, as you say. Once you're confident in yourself and you know that you're prepared and you can do a good job, I mean, I wouldn't get caught up with the little things, like the mic not working for you, that could have thrown you. As an audience member, that could have made me think, do you remember that guy? Oh my God, the poor guy, that mic didn't work for him, but his presentation blew me away. And I will remember you more because of that stumble that happened. You know, that to me puts me on a higher intake, because something different's happened than everyone just sitting there after the next. So I think if you think about things like people walking out, you don't know if someone's dog's died that day. You don't know if their kid's in hospital and they're checking their phone for text messages. You don't know any of this stuff. So why make it up? Get on with the job that you're meant to do and save your brain space and energy for that, rather than the little things. So yeah, but my takeaway is definitely to look how much content I'm overfeeding in my speeches. That's key for me today. Thank you so much, Jose.
Amazing, amazing. I love it, because I've learned from all of you today. So thank you so much for being here. Thank you for sharing so openly. And I cannot wait to see you again. Keep in touch. I'll let you all go now. I'm going to stop recording. I'm going to stop live streaming and go and do whatever you're supposed to do. Thank you very much, everybody. Take good care. Bye-bye. All the very best. Bye. Bye, everybody. Bye. Adios.
Ciao.
Ciao, amigos. Bye.
Tschüss.
Tschüss. Bye, Rasmi. Bye, everybody. Remember that we run these shows every Thursday, 10 a.m. UK time. So all you have to do is click the link to join, grab your free ticket. And I'd love to have you on the next episode. Well, episode, session, show, event, whatever you want to call it. Big love. Bye-bye, everybody.